The moment she turned her chair and faced the mirror, I actually forgot what I was supposed to say. Her eyes looked brighter, her jawline softer, and there was this movement to her hair, light, layered, almost like it was laughing. And all I could whisper was, "Oh, wow." I've been in beauty for over 20 years. I've seen trends come and go, sharp bobs, pixies, even the return of the perm. But nothing, and I mean nothing, has surprised me quite like this. The modern shag cut, especially on women over 60. Now, before you say, "That's too edgy for me," or "I'm not trendy," let me gently stop you right there. This isn't about trend. This is about energy, movement, softness, freedom. In today's video, I'll show you exactly why the shag cut, when done right, does something almost magical. It doesn't try to make you look younger. It just lets you look more awake, more yourself. We'll walk through what makes it flattering, who it works for, what to avoid, and I'll even share 4 real women who trusted the scissors and walked out feeling a little more alive. But first, let me tell you about the moment this cut changed how I view aging. It was last fall. Leaves were falling like copper confetti. I had a client. Her name was Diane, 64, retired kindergarten teacher, wore lavender nail polish and carried peppermints in her purse. She sat in my chair and said, "I don't want to look young. I just want to look like I still care." We talked, laughed. She cried, just a little. And then we cut. Not too short, not too choppy, just enough to lift the crown, open the face, soften the eyes. When she stood up and looked in the mirror, she didn't gasp. She smiled, closed-lipped, warm, like she remembered something she hadn't felt in a while. She looked at me and said, This feels like me, just lighter." And that's what this video is about. Not reinvention, but reconnection. To the woman you've always been, now seen in a new light. Let's begin. Have you ever kept a hairstyle not because you loved it, but because it felt safer than the change? For years, I believed long hair was my identity. Not glamorous, not showy, just mine. It brushed my shoulders, curled under in a polite flip, and never made too much noise. I'd trim it every now and then, but I never dared shift the shape. Because in some strange way, that hair held a version of me I thought I had to protect. Not for beauty, but for familiarity. And I see that in so many of the women who sit in my chair. Cheryl was one of them. 67, silver strands with a hint of honey left at the ends. She came in for a trim, same as always. When I gently asked if she'd ever thought about trying something new, just layers, maybe a soft face frame, she paused. Then she said, "I've worn my hair like this since 1989. My husband liked it. He's gone now, but I guess I never stopped wearing it for him." She said it with a little laugh, but her eyes stayed still. And I understood, because sometimes we don't just keep the hair, we keep the woman we were for someone else. The caregiver, the wife, the quiet one, the dependable one. And somewhere along the way, changing the hair feels like betraying her. But maybe, just maybe, it's not betrayal. Maybe it's permission. Permission to let her rest, and to let someone new emerge. The truth is, we all have versions of ourselves we're still carrying. In drawers, in old photos, in the way we avoid the mirror on rushed mornings. But hair? Hair is one of the few things we can actually change without losing who we are. In fact, sometimes it helps us find her again. I used to cut my own hair the same way for years, even though it bored me, because change, even as a stylist, felt like risk. Now I know, it's not about the haircut, it's about the moment you decide you're ready. So if your hair has stayed the same, not because it brings you joy, but because it brings you certainty, this might be your moment to ask, who am I holding on to? And what am I finally ready to let go? Because sometimes, letting go of a few inches is how you reclaim a whole part of yourself. Next, let's talk about what this shag cut actually does, and why it's working better now for women over 60 than it ever did before. Do you remember the last time your haircut moved before you did? The kind that catches a breeze, grazes your cheekbone, and suddenly makes you wonder when you stopped noticing your reflection. A good shag cut doesn't shout. It whispers. It brings movement back to where things have felt flat for years, even decades. And more than that, It frames the face in a way that draws the eye upward, toward the eyes, toward the smile, instead of the lines we think we need to hide. I always tell my clients, it's not about hiding your age, it's about honoring it, gently. Take Diane. 60. Warm laugh. A little unsure at first. She walked in with shoulder-length hair that hung heavy at the sides, pulling her features downward. It wasn't bad. It just didn't do anything for her anymore. We did a soft, layered shag, nothing dramatic. Feathered just enough to open up her cheekbones. Kept the length around the jaw but lifted the crown. And when she saw herself in the mirror, she said, "It's like I put the light back on." Because here's the secret. A well-cut shag adds air. It creates subtle shadows and highlights that contour your face naturally. It makes room for your eyes to shine, for your skin to breathe. You don't need contour sticks or filters, just the right balance of lift and softness. And more than anything, it moves. And when hair moves, you move. You smile differently. You tilt your head in a way that says, "I still feel beautiful." And you stop tugging at your sweater to distract from your neckline or hiding behind your readers when someone looks too closely. I used to think clients over 60 wanted low maintenance, but what they really wanted was ease. And there's a difference. Ease is when your hair works with you, not against you. When you don't have to fight with it every morning or overthink every dinner invite. When you can run your fingers through it, fluff it once, and feel complete. So no, a good shag cut won't erase the years, but it might help you reclaim them. And the best part? There isn't just one shag cut. There are 4 beautiful versions that flatter different face shapes, hair textures, and lifestyles. And I'll walk you through each of them next. Let's find the one that makes you feel most like you. Have you ever seen a haircut on someone else and thought, "I wish I could pull that off"? But then your second thought whispered, "Maybe that's not for women like me anymore." That quiet voice is what keeps so many women stuck in haircuts they've outgrown. Not because they want to, but because they're not sure what else is allowed. But the shag? The shag doesn't ask permission. It adapts. That's the quiet magic of this style. It's not one size fits all. It's a shape that can soften, lift, frame, or even bring a little playful bounce back into your presence. The key is finding your version. Let me walk you through 4 types of shag cuts I've used with clients over 60. Each one is different as the woman who wears it. 1. The soft layered shag for round faces. This version adds gentle face-framing layers that don't overwhelm. Think soft edges, a little volume at the crown, and tapered ends that skim the shoulders. Perfect for women like Marlene, 65, grandmother of 5, and still teaching watercolor on Wednesdays. Her round face always made her shy away from shorter cuts. But with this shape, we lifted the sides and added movement near the cheekbones. She looked in the mirror and said, "I finally look less tired. Not younger, just awake." 2. The long crown shag for thinning hair at the top. A lot of women post-menopause notice volume loss up top. This shag builds subtle lift at the crown without teasing or heavy product. Janet, 70, walked in worried her hair had become flat and invisible. We layered the crown, kept length near her jaw, and let the top rise just enough. When she left, she didn't just look taller, she walked taller. Because sometimes a 1/4 inch of volume brings back 3 inches of confidence. 3. The jaw-hugging shag. Bob, for square or strong jawlines. This one's a favorite for structure. It hits right at the jaw but uses angled layers to soften sharp edges. Elaine, 62, had always been told she had a strong face. For years she wore long hair to feminize it. But once we shaped the shag bob around her angles, her whole posture shifted. She told me, "For the first time I feel like I'm not hiding my face. I'm framing it." That's a powerful shift, when your haircut stops trying to hide you and starts supporting you. 4. The wispy shag with side-swept bangs, perfect for glasses wearers or softening deep-set eyes. This version is gentle and flowing, ideal for women who want movement without volume. The side-swept fringe opens up the face and draws attention to the eyes. Diane, a retired nurse and avid reader, always wore her glasses low on her nose. She'd never had bangs and was hesitant. But when we added the fringe and thinned out the ends, she looked in the mirror and said, "I look kind, like someone I'd want to talk to on a park bench." That moment stayed with me, because the best haircuts don't just flatter your features, they reconnect you to your essence. And here's the thing, none of these women wanted to look younger. They wanted to feel clearer, lighter, present. Each of these shag styles did just that, by honoring their bone structure, their lifestyle, and their desire to be seen exactly as they are. So if you've been holding on to a cut that no longer reflects your spirit, maybe it's time to explore one that does. Because once you find the right cut, it's not just your hair that moves differently, it's you. Next, let's talk about the mistakes I see most often, and how a few small tweaks can turn a disappointing haircut into a transformation you love every day. When was the last time you got a haircut that looked perfect on paper, but left you feeling invisible? It happens more than we admit. Not because we chose wrong, but because no one told us how small decisions could change everything. Over the years, I've seen 5 common mistakes that quietly dull the beauty of a shag cut. And thankfully, each has a gentle fix. Mistake 1, too much layering. It sounds exciting, volume, texture, movement. But for mature hair, especially if it's fine or thinning, too many choppy layers can make the hair look frizzy or sparse. Mary, 68, came in with a shag she got at a trendy salon. "They said it would give me edge," she told me, "but I just feel wild, and not in a good way." We trimmed the ends, softened the layers near her face, and brought back balance. And when she saw herself, she exhaled and said, "Now I feel like a woman again, not a wind-blown teenager." Mistake 2, not enough shaping at the crown. Many women ask for a shag, but then hesitate to let us lift the crown. "Just keep it flat," they say, afraid of looking dated or done. But without that subtle height, the face can appear heavier. A little lift, literally 1 inch, can brighten your entire presence. It's not volume for vanity, it's structure for elegance. Mistake 3, skipping the fringe bangs scare people. But the right fringe, it can soften forehead lines, open up the eyes, and add instant approachability. I had a client named Joan, 63, who hadn't worn bangs since 1977. When we added a side-swept fringe, she looked in the mirror and whispered, "Oh, I look friendly again." That hit me, because sometimes what we really want isn't to look younger, it's to look more inviting, more us. Mistake 4, ignoring the neckline. The back matters. So many cuts ignore how the hair lies against the neck and collar. A too blunt finish can drag the whole look down. But when we taper and shape the neckline softly, it creates a graceful exit. It makes your movement look intentional, even elegant. Mistake 5, choosing the wrong stylist. This one is tender, but true. A shag cut needs understanding of texture, age, lifestyle. You don't want a stylist chasing trends. You want one who listens. Lisa, a widowed librarian from Wisconsin, told me, "I want someone who sees me, not just my hair." And that's what we should all want. Not just a haircut, but a moment of being seen. And here's my personal take. After 2 decades behind the chair, mistakes in hair rarely come from bold choices. They come from silent compromise, from saying, "Just trim it," when your heart whispers, "I'm ready for something new." So here's what I invite you to do. Not overhaul everything. Just adjust with intention. A 1/2 inch off the ends. A subtle lift. A whisper of fringe. Not for transformation, but for truth. Because when your cut reflects who you are today, not 10 years ago, not what someone else expected, you begin to carry yourself differently. Not louder, just lighter. Next, let's talk about the moments when these cuts come to life. Real women, real places, real confidence, from Sunday church to coffee with friends. When was the last time someone looked into your eyes and you saw yourself reflected back with light? We often think a haircut shows up first in the silhouette, in the style, in the way it frames the face. But I've learned, after styling hundreds of women over 60, that real change shows up in the eyes. Not because they sparkle like a magazine promise, but because something softens, opens, breathes. It's not the cut, it's the permission the cut gives. That's what happened with Helen. Helen is 72, a retired physical therapist, fiercely independent, wore the same short crop for nearly 15 years. She came to me reluctantly. Her daughter bought her a gift card, and she didn't want to waste it. When I asked what she was hoping for, she shrugged and said, "I don't know, just less tired, maybe." We didn't go bold, just a gentle shag, a little movement, some softness around the eyes, and side-swept fringe, barely brushing her brow. When I turned her to the mirror, she blinked, tilted her head, and then she smiled. But it wasn't her lips that changed first. It was her eyes. They lifted, like something had been lifted off of her. She said, "I didn't realize how heavy I looked, until now." And that moment, quiet, almost forgettable to an outsider, is what we're really searching for. Because as we age, there are fewer people telling us, "You look radiant." We become invisible not in what we wear, but in how the world looks past us. We begin to believe that sparkle is for someone younger, someone newer. But it's not. It's for you. Still. And a haircut? It won't fix everything. But it can bring you back to the mirror with softness, with surprise, with recognition. I used to think beauty showed up in the jawline, in the cheekbones. But now I know it's in the eyes, when they say, "I remember who I am." That's the real before and after. Next, I want to show you how to keep that light alive, not just through the cut, but how you care for it at home, with ease and grace, every single day. Have you ever had a moment with your hair that had nothing to do with hair at all? I did. And it came on a Thursday morning I wasn't expecting. I had just turned 61. My youngest had moved across the country. My days, once filled with lunches and laundry and errands for everyone else, had gotten quieter. I stood in front of the mirror one morning, coffee in hand, same navy robe I've had since 1998, and I barely recognized the woman looking back. Her hair, shoulder length, was neatly brushed. Nothing wrong with it, but it just hung there, like it was waiting for something, like I was waiting for something. That's when I saw it, not in the hair, but in the expression, that soft sag in the corners of my mouth, that pause behind my eyes. I realized I hadn't changed my hair in almost 9 years, not because I loved it, but because it felt safe, familiar, expected. But here's the insight I wish someone had whispered to me sooner. Sometimes, holding on to a hairstyle is just a way of holding on to who we used to be, before retirement, before loss, before everything got quieter. That week, I booked an appointment, told my stylist, "Do what you think suits her," and pointed to the woman in the mirror. Not the mother, not the wife, just me. We did a soft shag, face framing, light fringe, just enough to move. And I kid you not, when I walked past the mirror later that afternoon, I stopped and smiled. Not because I looked younger, but because I looked present. There. Awake. It's easy to think we need a makeover to feel new again. But sometimes all it takes is a shift, a nudge, a change that tells your reflection, "I still see you." Hair is funny that way. It holds memory and possibility. So if you're holding on to a cut because it feels familiar, ask yourself gently, is it still you, or is it time to meet the woman you're becoming? Next, I'll walk you through the simple ways to care for this cut at home, because once you find it, you'll want to keep that ease, that lift, and that beautiful feeling day after day. What does it really mean to sit in that salon chair? To most, it's a routine, a trim, a refresh. But for many women over 60, that chair holds more than scissors and shampoo. It holds a quiet kind of courage. Because the mirror doesn't just show your hair, it reflects your seasons, the years you raised children, the times you didn't recognize yourself in the middle of grief, the stretch of days when you felt invisible but kept going anyway. A few months ago, I had a client named Lorraine. She was 66, soft-spoken, wore a turtleneck and corduroy skirt even though it was July. When I asked her how she wanted to feel when she left, she paused and said, "Visible, but not loud, just seen." We gave her a layered shag with soft movement. When we turned the chair to face the mirror, she didn't say a word, just reached up, touched her fringe, smiled with her whole face, and whispered, "There I am." That's the moment I think every woman deserves. Not because of the haircut, but because she allowed herself to return to the mirror without apology. So here's my closing thought to you. Not as a beauty expert, but as another woman who knows what it's like to grow, to let go, to begin again. You are still becoming. You're not late. You're right on time. The chair, the mirror, they're not where reinvention begins. They're just where you finally catch up with the woman you've quietly been becoming all along. And if this video felt, even for a moment, like someone whispered, "You still have it," then I'll be right here with the kettle on.